Welcome to Citing Textual Evidence. The objective of this presentation is for you to be able to say at the end, I can cite or quote several pieces of textual evidence to support my ideas. When you read, you're often asked to answer questions or express your ideas. To let people know that you aren't just making stuff up off the top of your head, you should use explicit textual evidence to support your opinions or answers. In real life, people who can back up an opinion about a text with explicit textual evidence are taken more seriously than people who can only give a reason of just because. So what does explicit textual evidence mean? Explicit means direct, textual from the text, and evidence is the support for your answer, opinion, or idea. So if you are able to point directly to a line in the text, then that's your evidence. How to use this? First, you need to state the idea. If you're responding to a specific question, be sure your idea responds to the question. Second, cite what in the text led you to that idea. Cite is a verb, which also means to quote evidence from a text. Give supporting evidence from the text. If you're directly quoting from a text, you must use quotation marks. We've provided some sentence starters here for you. The first one shows where exactly the student got the quote that they're using for evidence. For instance, in the first paragraph, the author says, and then what you found in the text that proves your idea is going to go where the blank is, and it's going to be copied word for word exactly as it's written. If it is altered in any way, then that is called paraphrasing, and you will not be allowed to put quotation marks around it. It is best to put quotation marks around a quote exactly as it's written. Otherwise, you could accidentally plagiarize or take credit for words that you did not write. Step 3. Explain your evidence. Explain how the quote that you pointed out supports the idea that you stated in step 1. This helps point out specific things that the reader should be looking for and how they connect to your idea. Some sentence starters for how to start this are below. Here is an example text. Cats kill between 1.4 billion and 3.7 billion birds every year in the United States alone, a new report concludes. That's nearly a billion more birds, at least, than estimated by some previous studies, Peter Marr told Science News. This research scientist, who works at the Smithsonian Conservation Biology Institute in Washington, D.C., led the new study. Any long-term solution will be controversial. Some people propose catching wild cats and neutering them, which means performing minor surgery to make them unable to reproduce. That won't make them kill fewer animals, but it will slow the increase in number of these natural-born killers. Other people have proposed catching and killing feral cats. Here is an example answer. On the left is what the student wrote. On the right explains each step that we have just gone over. So the student answered the question, what is the author's purpose in writing this text? The author's purpose was to make people aware that cats killing birds has become a problem, but any solution to the problem will be controversial. Here the writer answers the question with an idea about the text. Step 1. In the first paragraph, the author points out, cats kill between 1.4 billion and 3.7 billion every year. Here, the writer includes a direct quote from the text as evidence. Step 2. Notice that the wording of the quote is exactly as it was in the original text. Since it has not been modified in any way, the quotation marks will go around it to indicate that. Next, the author's use of that statistic really catches a reader's eye because they are such big numbers, so it shows just how big the problem is. Here, the writer comments on how the quoted text that was cited as evidence helped form the first part of the idea that was stated to answer the question. This is step 3. Then, in the second paragraph, the author says that people suggest either performing minor surgery to make them unable to reproduce or killing feral cats. Here, the writer cites another quote to give a second piece of evidence. Step 2 again. The author was demonstrating that the possible solutions are controversial because most people would not like the idea of cats being caught in order to either operate on them or kill them. Here, the writer comments on how the evidence helped form the second part of the idea that was stated to answer the question. So we have repeated step 3. Depending on your assignment, you may be asked for multiple pieces of explicit textual evidence to prove your ideas, or just one. Make sure to check with the assignment to see what is needed. Most times you will find that you will need several quotes to prove a uniting idea. Both quotes refer to the main idea that was stated in the first sentence. Now it's your turn. Give this a try using the article, "All Grins, Baltimore Boy Becomes First to Receive New Hands." Your question is, how did Zion deal with his unfair situation? So you are going to state a main idea that is going to answer the question, and then you are going to find a quote that supports that main idea and explain what exactly in the quote shows the connection to your original idea. Here's a tip. When citing the quote, remember to check if Zion is saying it or if the author of the article is saying it. So if you use textual evidence from something Zion says, instead of using the sentence starters, the author says, you would use something like Zion says. But if it is straight from the article and not something Zion said, you would still say the author says. Good luck!